Hello and welcome to Odds Serie A Match Day 5. We keep seeing Napoli on top of the table, suffering but getting the 3 points. It was not the case for Juve. First time they drop points, Leo, and we have 𝐻𝐵 playing against Atalanta in a good game, and Napoli playing in San Siro. Great weekend ahead of us.
Yes, absolutely. That Napoli trip to San Siro is very interesting. I'm somehow starting to see positive things in Ivan Juric's Atalanta as well. A good trip to Turin, but for Milan, Edu, which is actually, come on, they are really improving so far. They even won in the Coppa Italia on Tuesday night 3-0 against Lecce. The next 2 weeks or the next 2 match days in Italy are very important. Napoli and then Juventus for the 𝗪𝐶𝐴llegri's team.
Let's see what we have ahead of us. Guys, as always, press the like, subscribe, tell us your tips in the comment sections. And now, let's go on with the show. And we start this match day 5 with a really interesting game, como Cremonese. This could be a European fight, Leo, right now. Early days, but Cremonese unbeaten, 6th in the table, como 7 points. Como were kind of lucky to get the win against Fiorentina, but of course, well done. It's never easy to win in Florence after the draw with Genoa. Cremonese, as I said, the biggest surprise of this start of the season. They are coming from 2 draws against Parma and Verona. Anyway, Leo, it's important when you are fighting against relegation like Cremona is going to do. When you are not winning, not losing.
Absolutely. When you are not winning, the best you can do is not to lose. And that's what Cremonese at least is doing. 2 consecutive clean sheets in the last 2 games. I think that David and Nicola didn't like at all that on match day 2 against Sassuolo, they conceded twice and they almost dropped points. They haven't got behind yet this season, though with Parma they were very close. To be honest, because they hit the woodwork at the beginning of the game, and that could have changed for sure the dynamic of that match against Parma. Martin Pajero, Jamie Vardy, Jeremy Sarmiento, all doubts to the trip to the lake because of 𝐋𝐞𝐿, which makes 𝐜𝐭'𝐬 even a little bit more favorite for this one, despite this great start from Cremonese. So many times last season, 𝐜𝐭𝐬 draw points after scoring first. So that's why to have won it from behind in Firenze felt very special for the Lake team. It felt special because the winning goal came on added time, and felt special as well because of the floor in 𝐜𝐭'𝐬, which have hurt the city. The club announced that they are donating all the proceedings from their Coppa Italia match with Sassuolo to support the local community. It was important for 𝐜𝐭𝐬 the turnaround as well because with Fiorentina, or was the second game away of the season. In the first one with Bologna, they conceded first and they could not come back. And actually, after Bologna scored, we saw a very flat 𝐜𝐭𝐬. So in this instance was different. First half was tough for them, but second half they went for it, Fabregas men. I'm not a big fan, I told you last season, of managers giving motivational speech to their players in the pitch with the cameras pointing at them. Fabregas likes to do it. He did it again in Firenze. But what he said was the right thing to say, I will say, that they need to keep going. He even said, let's get one more on Wednesday for the Coppa Italia, showing that he wants to fight for every competition. As we mentioned last show, Diego Carlos made his debut in central defense, played 90 minutes, had a good game. They need that commanding voice at the back. I really want Jesus Rodriguez to gel. He's not there yet. He came in the second half. He looked lively, but there's still no signs of footballing understanding them with 𝐿𝐴. But once the Spanish adapts to the Serie A, they are going to give us those two together good moments of football. Good time for Cremonese, yes, but 𝐜𝐭𝐬 is the favorite here. I will go that route, Edu. 𝐜𝐭𝐬 to win, combine with goals over 1.5, odds of 1.96.
It's about time to see the first defeat of Cremonese, but still great start. And one of the best games we have this weekend is Juventus Atalanta. Atalanta also undefeated and great win for 𝗀𝗏𝗏 in Torino, his former home. Bouncing back after the defeat in Paris. High scoring games actually for Atalanta in this start of the season. The same we can say about Juventus, although they dropped points for the very first time in this season. They were very lucky, I think, to get the late winners or goals in the last two games, including the one in the Champions League. Well, Leo, if we check the games in this season, perhaps we see a lot of entertaining, perhaps we see a lot of goals in this one.
Yes, could be, Edu, and to be honest, it's true what you mentioned about Juve, but I think against Verona, they in the weekend was tired legs as well kicking in for Juve after those crazy games with plenty of goals against Inter and against Dortmund, and that's what it felt quite flat, the 1-1 on Matchday 4 for them. I think we can see a Juventus evolving compared to last season, but they are not yet being consistent. That is probably more a mentality issue than a footballing issue. They're still paying that Bremer, their best defender, is not yet ready to play 90 minutes every 3 days after missing out almost the entire of last season with an ACL injury. Kalulu, Gatti, Kelly, they're back free in Verona. You don't go too far with that. We are seeing 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 taking priority over Jonathan David, and that would probably be the case with Atalanta as well. Or maybe not, I don't know, because to be honest, the Serbian has been more effective coming from the bench than when he started games this season. But as much as they are evolving, with Inter and Dortmund, we also saw Juventus sitting very, very deep for long periods of time. Actually, to illustrate how much they see the initiative, 5 of those 7 goals they suffered against Inter and Atalanta, 5 of those 7 goals came from the edge of the box, which is telling you a Juventus sitting very, very deep. But talking about goals, yes, Atalanta scoring 7 in the last 2 games. With Torino, we saw 𝐿𝐵𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏 leading the attack, scoring a brace, his first goals with Atalanta. Lazar Samardzic showing glimpses of his talent. That's why he wears the number 10. Sulemana not only scored, but he was a threat as well, playing behind 𝐶hristović. In the second half, great piece of news, Edu. Ademola Lookman came to play in the last 5 minutes. Ivan Juric has important players out injured. That's a shame for him going into Turin. And 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, 𝐶𝐭MACA and Emerson. Of the 3, the one that could be missed the least in Turin, I would say that is 𝐶𝐭MACA. The book is placing Juventus as big favorites, but be careful here. I think this one has the potential of becoming an upset on Matchday 5. Serie A is no strangers to upsets this season with Cremonese, winning in San Siro, Udinese in San Siro too. Of course, Atalanta probably is not in that same bracket. At the end of the day, they are a Champions League team. But when you look at the 5 top European leagues, you will find more away wins so far in the Bundesliga. The away wins rate is 42% in Germany. Second is Serie A with 35% away wins so far. La Liga, Liga, and the Premier League show percentages in the low 20s for away wins. Atalanta scored first in 3 of their 4 games. Those looking at that and thinking, okay, Atalanta to score first, the odds are 2.62. But my take is first half double chance Atalanta combined with first half goals over 0.5. You need 1 goal, odds of 2.15.
All right, great game, good test for Juventus, both teams playing Champions League the following week. And then we have Cagliari, Inter, very important win for Inter, far for being brilliant against Sassuolo, but again, they got the win, same as they did against Ajax, bouncing back after the defeat with Juventus. Again, far from perfect, far from being brilliant. And Cagliari had a really good start of the season, beating Lecce and Parma, direct rivals, to avoid relegation. And even in the defeat against Napoli, Leo, perhaps they deserve the draw at the Maradona.
Yes, and you have to add to that as well, Edu, a 4-1 in Coppa Italia Tuesday night against Frosinone. But Inter, yes, they rounded up a good week with that win in Amsterdam and with the win against Sassuolo. They had to work hard for it. Sassuolo, every time they were on Inter's last third, they looked threatening, which is not a good look on Inter, or not a great one at least. This side, they should have killed the game much earlier, and Sassuolo's goalkeeper was man of the match. I'm not a measure of any kind, but when Inter with Inzaghi was playing, I was watching. And now now I won't probably rush to be in front of the TV to see them play. 𝐿𝐭𝐵𝐿 made changes with Sassuolo. We had Carlos Augusto in the back line, Susic returning to midfield. Lautaro was in the bench again, as in Amsterdam, with Thuram and Esposito up front. And we had Josep Martinez in goal instead of Jan Sommer, which is an interesting one, and something that we need to follow. Because yes, the other changes you could tell, okay, that's rotation, champion after playing the Champions League, going to play now again the following week. But to change the keeper is not that usual, or to rotate the keeper, I would say. Lautaro is a question mark now. His level of fitness and confidence is not there. Then in 2 weeks you have another international break, another long trip for him. Is far from being an ideal start of the season for the Argentinian. Thuram and Esposito provide similar threats. They can both play with the back to the goal and set up runners on the wing. But everything is bad with Inter. I like that even in the final minute, Inter was still holding a high line against Sassuolo. Of course, that is not risk-free, and they have conceded dangerous counterattacks at times, and they could have been punished as well, or they could be punished against a more threatening team in attack. But at least it shows that they're trying to be a little bit more adventurous with 𝐿𝐭𝐵𝐿, with that high line. But could be Cagliari one that punishes Inter actually in the counter? Well, we'll see. I mean, they will be set up for that for sure. And the fact that there is Champions League football next week for Inter is something to consider as well. Andrea Belotti scored a brace to win from behind against Lecce, his first goals for the team since arriving. But last season, when you look at the big games in Sardinia, the Nerazzurro won 3-0 against Cagliari. Napoli went there and won 4-0. I don't see those margins again, that's for sure. Inter to win is 1.65. It's good on its own for those who want to trust Inter. But I was looking at the corners market, Edu, because in Inter first 4 games this season, there have been 10 corners, 14 corners, 15 corners, 11 corners in total. With Cagliari corners over 9.5, odds of 1.95, and that's my take, Edu, corners market.
All right, these are the teams involved in the Champions League, Juventus, Atalanta, and Inter for Sunday. 5 games, Sassuolo, Udinese is the first one. This is important for the relegation, especially for Sassuolo, only 3 points with the win against Lazio. Udinese, 7 points. They were smashed by a good Milan. We will talk about the Rossoneri later on, but they had a good start overall for Udinese.
Yes, Udinese at the back of 0 defeat with Milan, Edu, in which they were never in contention. Milan was better than the Froliani in all aspects on last weekend. Runjaic, the manager, changed system, went 4 at the back, something he haven't done since last season. After the game, he defended his idea, saying that tactics were not a problem, but players not applying themselves, like they never pressed efficiently Stupinian on the left, and the team sat very deep because of that. So I don't know how happy the players are going to be in the changing room, listening that the manager is saying that I got it right, but it was the players that did not execute the idea correctly. For Sassuolo, there was a sense of what if in those last few minutes in San Siro, because they had chances or they threatened a little bit Inter every time they were on the last third at the end of the game. And actually, I mean, I thought that they could have scored an equalizer because we usually have Sassuolo and goals as a special relationship in our minds. Domenico Berardi had a chance, Pinamonti had a chance as well. But as I said, it was 𝗵𝗵, Sassuolo's goalkeeper, the start of the night in San Siro. It's 3 defeats and 1 win for them. The first 2 games at home were Napoli and Lazio, which for a newly promoted team was going to be challenging. And they managed 3 points in those games. Now with Udinese, the hopes are there for Sassuolo for a second win of the season. Udinese, they have won their 2 fixtures on the road. And in the head-to-head, they won 4 times in the last 11 encounters. Sassuolo won just once. The draw, as the recent history suggests, is 3.5. But the odds on the Friulani to make it 3 out of 3 away this season is 3.3 as well. They're good odds on Udinese. The most common result between these 2 sides with Sassuolo, Edu, playing at home is 1-1. So my take for this Sassuolo Udinese is goals under 2.5, 1.76.
And then we have a derby in the beautiful Tuscany,
Yes.
Pisa, Fiorentina, only 1 point for Pisa. In Bergamo, we knew they were going to suffer, but still, I think a lot of positives to take, even in the game against Napoli, Leo. The 𝐿𝐵 was higher, the one of Pisa higher than Napoli. And, well, they ended up losing 3-2. They also lost to Udinese and Roma, but keeping themselves really competitive. And Fiorentina, I think, is the biggest flop in this start of the season in the Serie A. Lost to Como, lost to Napoli, and it's only 2 points and still winless in this Serie A.
Yeah, absolutely, Edu, and I agree completely that Pisa should look at the positives, even when they look at the standings and the picture shows them bottom of the table. The 3 matches they lost were all 1 goal margin defeats, and 2 of them against Roma and Napoli and away from home. The odds on them of 3.25 are for sure lower than we could have thought at the beginning of the season when thinking about this Tuscany derby. Gilardino is confident the good results will come soon for Pisa. Of course, the best scenario will be to find their first win in a derby. Fiorentina, I agree, very disappointing so far. They're in crisis, Edu.
Yeah.
That is a fact. The fans turned against the players after the final whistle in the defeat with Como. No wins, just 3 goals scoring 4 games. They went ahead with the Mandrake goal, but they lost control of the game in the second half. They were unable to control the ball. Probably if they give away the ball on Sunday with Pisa, they won't suffer as much as they did with Como, who is a team who wants to have the ball at their feet and have better players. But at the same time, if you give the ball all the time, as Fiorentina did in the second half, you are setting up for disaster. There is a pattern so far for Stefano Pioli's side, which is the control of the game, that they lose the control of the game completely after 20 minutes or half an hour. With Como, they managed to extend that period of control for almost the completely first half, but then second half, as I said, was very, very poor. But in the first half, they tried to press high, 1v1 marking all over the pitch, Fassini coming from central areas coming to central areas from the wing. Basically, you could see players rotating or trying to do it, but then, as I said, they lost almost all second balls, they lost duels, and they made their life impossible. They need 𝐿𝐵𝐼 scoring as soon as possible. When you look at his expected goals of 2.18, you could see that he had chances to score in these 4 games. I don't see him very comfortable with another striker like Roberto Piccoli next to him, that he will prefer, I don't know, probably a 4-2-3-1 where he's the only reference, although with the Nazionale he's playing together with Retegui and it worked. As I said in the previous game, Edu, I don't see a goal-scoring feast probably here. 𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐿 is going to open up sooner than later. He's going to find his goal scoring form sooner than later. That's why I'm going to go the individual marketing here. 𝐵𝐻𝐿 to score or to assist anytime. It's 2.25. That is my take. Other tips which I find value could be as well both teams to score yes, 1.95 by mine is 𝐵𝐻𝐿 to score or to assist anytime, 2.25.
Right now, the top scorer of Fiorentina is Rolando Mandragora, La Fiore.
Mandrake.
The Viola in crisis, indeed.
Yeah.
Next one is Roma Verona, massive win for Roma in the Derby della Capitale. So many years without winning away this game. Ugly win, I have to say, even with one player more. At the end, Roma was saved by the post, but Gasperini has had a good start, I would say, with 9 points, only the defeat at home against Torino. Pellegrini again scoring in a derby, I would say more points than game, Leo, than show game in Roma.
Yeah.
So far, and should be another win actually for Roma, I guess, against Verona. They are winless. And already lost 4-0 in this stadium against Lazio, but I expected a little bit more from Roma, Leo, something more eye-catching.
Look, Edu, absolutely. I mean, they are still far from where we thought they were going to be with Gasperini, or how Roma with Gasperini would look like when we were thinking at the beginning of the season. We were very excited of seeing Gasperini in the capital. Of course, I agree with that. Probably once he has everyone fit, once everyone understands what he wants, I think this is a season to believe that Roma could lift a title. I don't know which one. Gasperini, for instance, said that Roma is not a favorite for the Europa League. But until the moment when everything comes close together, the best thing to do is winning your games, even if you are not playing. I wouldn't say playing ugly, but when you are not playing your best, and 3 out of 4 is good, including the derby. And it had to be Lorenzo Pellegrini, Edu. He's one of their own. He's a Giallorossi through and through. And once Mourinho said that he wanted a team with 11 Pellegrinis. In a way, history repeated itself, and not only because he scored like in the 2-0 last season with Ranieri, but because when Ranieri arrived, the number 7 was left out in the goal. If you remember, the atmosphere was very toxic against him. That every time he touched the ball, there were insults and whistling in the Olimpico. When Mourinho was fired, there was a lot of talk that he felt betrayed by senior players. And Pellegrini was one that everyone looked at. Mo was, and he still is, an idol for Roma fans. So any indication that someone was not being loyal left Pellegrini in a bad position. But Ranieri took him out of the goal, and was a surprise that he included him in that starting 11 when Roma won 2-0. And he responded. Scored in the derby, and from there the team grew, and also Pellegrini. And now with Gasperini, the same. The reasons for him to be left out this season were different. It is a contractual situation. Roma wants to renew Pellegrini's contract, but demands the player takes a pay cut. Pellegrini is not ready to accept anything like that, so he will probably leave if it's not January next summer. So he did not start any of Roma's games before Sunday. But with El Shaarawy injured, with Dybala injured, with Bailey still not fit, well, Gasperini had no choice than to play Pellegrini. And he responded, Edu. And now comes this Verona at the back of a 0-0 with Cremonese, their third draw in 4 games for Verona. So playing at the Olimpico, even if they are winning not very nicely, for me, it's Roma to win 2-0, odds of 2.1.
They are playing in Europe, remember, in the Europa League phase.
As well. Yep.
This week. Lecce, Bologna, also Bologna playing in Europe against Aston Villa. And here we have beautiful odds to back Bologna, 2.17, also with the caveat of them playing in Villa Park, always tough. But They are better than Lecce, of course. 1 point only. Lecce, one of the worst teams in this area, looking bad with some ugly defeats. And Bologna lost away to Milan and to Roma. But it's a project that I like, Leo, and sooner than later they should also win away.
Dreadful start, Edu, to the season for Lecce. I can't figure it out how they will avoid the drop this time. After the heavy defeat with Atalanta, losing a 6-pointer at home with Cagliari in a game they were winning 1-0 after 5 minutes. It's hard to take in 𝐵𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗀. In Coppa Italia, another hard defeat, 3-0 with Milan in San Siro, second defeat against Milan of the season. Di Francesco made 10 changes compared to the starting 11 with Cagliari. If the preferred 11 is not good enough, you could guess how is the BT Medu for Lecce. For Bologna, in contrast, last weekend was pure ecstasy, winning from behind against Genoa with a penalty from Orsolini in the dying moments of the game after a lengthy wait for the VAR to give them that penalty. Orsolini, who I mentioned, was taken out after 60 minutes on Matchday 3. This time, Vincenzo Italiano left him on the pitch. You can't take out your best player. He scored that penalty. Santi Castro also scored his first goal of the season, which is good. That's, I think, the best for Bologna to take that both of their forwards scored against Genoa, because the previous 3 games Bologna look a little bit like a toothless side so far. I can't trust Lecce. The odds on Bologna are very good, and that's my take. Bologna to win, odds of 2.17.
Next game is the great game we have this weekend, Milan-Napoli. Milan, after the defeat against Cremonese, they've reacted with Allegri on the bench, 3-0 against Udinese, also ahead in Coppa Italia. Also in this game in Coppa Italia, it was important to see Santi Giménez scoring, because I think he had a bad start with Milan, but the man in Lombardia is 𝗵𝗵𝗄𝐿𝐼c, scoring a brace. Also, he found the net in Coppa Italia. He's had a really good start, 3 goals so far in Serie A. So it's a big test for Napoli. Actually, Napoli are the underdog. Leo, I'm surprised to see Napoli as the underdog for this game, and it's been a perfect start.
But I still look at everyone from the very top. I did not expect them to win and suffer at home with Pisa. I mean, I expected them to win, but not to suffer. Pisa offered the intensity, physicality at the Diego Armando Maradona. They competed well. And Conte celebrated a lot after the final whistle, which tells you a lot of how the game unfolded for them. Conte mentioned as well that he has a squad that is not well drilled or used to play in Serie A, Champions League, Coppa Italia, Supercoppa Italiana, that should be the current champions, raises the level of expectations too. But this Napoli, I think, is prepared, Edu. The one who is relatively quiet, Edu, is Scott McTominay, I would say, in the last few weeks. And someone who is not quiet, you mentioned, Christian 𝗵𝗵𝗄𝐿𝐼c, Edu. He scored a brace last weekend in Serie A. He scored as well against Lecce on Tuesday night. Someone was saying something very interesting on TV the other day, and that is that only Lautaro combined for more goals and assists since 𝗵𝗵𝗄𝐿𝐼c moved to the Serie A. But however, Leao, no doubt because of his role in Milan's last title, his huge talent or potential, that Leao remains the bigger star in Italy for Milan than 𝗵𝗵𝗄𝐿𝐼c, when the number tells you a completely different story. The next couple of match days are going to be a perfect test for Milan. Napoli on Sunday, Juventus on Matchday 6. It will be difficult to point at Max Allegri's defensive or conservative approach after Guardiola went to the Emirates and played 7-3-0 and finished the game with 8 center backs on the pitch. But this Milan side, although with a very low sample of matches, of course, is showing a very respectful number on expected goals against, on shots conceded. Probably the only one to leave Udine a little bit nervous was Santi Giménez, who started but could not score. Although, yes, you mentioned he managed to score against Lecce in Coppa Italia. Also 𝐿𝐭𝐵𝐻𝐿 scoring in San Siro against Lecce. And to be honest, not many teams in Italy can make 5 substitutions and claim that 4 of them are very good players and that some of them are probably even better than the one that started. And 𝐿𝐭𝐵𝐻𝐿, Ricci, 𝗏𝗏𝐿 and Tony de Winter all came in the second half in Udine, Edu. And Milan, the favorite for the bookies here, with Napoli, as you said, the underdog, 2.5 for Milan to win. There is Champions League football for Napoli 72 hours after at home with Sporting Lisbon. Milan scored 6 in the last 2 games in all competitions, 9 goals for Napoli in their 4 wins. But I don't expect an open game here, Edu, with Conte and with 𝗀𝗟𝗍𝗍 in those benches. Goals under 2.5 might take odds of 1.7.
Last season, Napoli won both games. In the last 8 years, is 6 wins for Napoli, 6 wins for Milan, 6 draws. And in our mind, of course, this Champions League tie a couple or 3 years ago when Milan knocked out Napoli. But these are other times, and I'm surprised to see Napoli as the underdog. I would put also parity in the odds in this Milan-Napoli. And 2 games for Monday, Parma, Torino. This one with Parma only 2 points, Torino 4. Parma draws against Cremonese and Atalanta. Torino, the only win came away in Roma at the Olimpico. This one is a tough one, actually.
Yes, absolutely, Edu. And but at the same time, I'm thinking that Parma been unlucky so far in the start of the season with Carlos Cuesta. With Cagliari away, they hit the woodwork twice and they lost. With Cremonese also away, Matteo Pellegrini hit the woodwork again with a header after 8 minutes. Situations in these last 2 games which could have changed things for them and give some calmness to this young team and young manager who is chasing his first managerial win of his career. And for me, if I must choose to watch a game of Parma or Torino, I will tune for Parma's game. Torino, 1 goal score, only 8 conceded. They seem a team with no reaction after the opposition scored first. Atalanta was winning 3-0 at halftime last weekend. The defeat came a week after they won at the Olimpico, so it is a bit baffling Torino's form so far. If there were some kind of expectations with the Granata, Marco Baroni will feel some pressure at this point. But that's the thing. The reality is that no one is waiting anything from the Granata. That's the truth. The only good news, Duvan Zapata played 20 minutes, and why not to give him the chance to start at the Ennio Tardini? But look, Edu, 1 goal scored by Parma, 1 goal scored by Torino so far. Might take both teams to score no 1.91 the odds.
And the last one is Genoa Lazio. Bad days for Maurizio Sarri. The season is not looking good. You mentioned it, I have to say. At the beginning of the season, the best player against Roma was Tati Castellanos when he came in with Dia missing chances and chances. Only 1 win against Verona, and all the games, both teams to score. No. For Lazio, also Genoa winless, only 2 points.
Yes, Edu, it's true that they deserve probably a draw, at least in the derby. That chance of 𝗀𝗲𝗍𝗍 was massive to equalize, and they have some other throughout the game. But overall, it's still a mediocre performance from Lazio. Of course, Sarri's head is at the surface of a club run very poorly that had invested nothing. That's true as well. Lotito is nowhere to be seen. Last week, Luis Alberto, the former number 10, he said that Lazio is run by people who don't understand football. Sarri does not have options sometimes to change things during games. Take 𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗏. He had to be substituted early on against Roma, and the one who came was an unfit Nicolo Rovella. And I'm someone who thinks Rovella is a very good player, but the point is that Sarri needs to bring unfit players because he has no others. Sarri needs time, needs patience, and eventually some support from the board. So number 3, he won't have it, support from the board, unless things go very bad. But if things go very bad, he won't have the time and the patience either. So he's in a difficult situation unless one thing, he starts winning matches. And Genoa and Vieira still lamenting, of course, the penalty that I mentioned before was awarded to Bologna on added time. I think a point should have been fair to take for Genoa in their trip to Bologna. They're winless. They need to start winning games, but so far very, very toothless as well in attack. 2 goals in 4 games for Genoa. Lazio is 2.5 for a win, but in a game that if it opens, it's going to happen, I believe, in the second half. That's why my take for this Genoa Lazio, Edu, first half draw, 2.05.
This is it for this match day, important one with Milan, Napoli, and Juventus, Atalanta. Guys, remember that you can post your tips in Oddspedia and participate in our tipster competitions, and of course also join our community and participate in Rivals, creating your own tipster competitions. Leo, safe bet.
Cagliari Inter, goals over 1.5, odds of 1.27.
And the ACCA
is plain and simply 3 wins. Inter to win, Roma to win, Fiorentina to win. These 3 together, odds of 5.62.
Uy, this Fiorentina. Uy.
I know. I was thinking, this one could mess it up. But look, Stefano Pioli needs to start winning games. It's a derby, yes. But if there is, again, someone who they could start turning this season around, that has to be the team bottom of the table, although Pisa is doing well, as we mentioned before.
They can take the Filippi, this is how it's called, the Autostrada, the road, Firenze, Livorno, Pisa, and you are watching the game with Gilardino. Gilardino, by the way, a legend of Fiorentina, of course. Yeah. Well, Leo, thank you. See you next week. Bye-bye.